This podcast acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we record, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. We also acknowledge the neighbouring Kulin Nation groups, the Bunwurrung and Bunurong people, and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We also extend that respect to any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities who may be listening today. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Glitter and Gold, the Original Steps podcast. We are the first podcast dedicated to discussing and dissecting the legacy of Steps, the UK's biggest mixed gender pop group of all time. We are your hosts. I am Shane and I'm just lying here wondering why and drawing circles with my mind while I wait for you. And next up, oh wait, is he too far gone? No, he's absolutely flawless. We have the lovely Scott. And then lately, he's been moving from side by side and getting that rush up and down his spine. We have the glorious Brad. How are you both, boys?
I like what you did there with my intro. And when people listen to the interview, they will know, they will understand, they will get it. And that's all I'm going to say.
On point. I told you. She's very topical today. How are we, boys? We good? You well?
I think Scott and I are both on a bit of a high at the moment. We are a couple of days post doing this chat that you're about to listen to, and I have been frothing is the best word to put it.
This chat that you're about to hear, everybody, I didn't conduct this interview, but I did wake up in the morning to 17,000 messages on the WhatsApp of the boys losing their tiny little minds over it. So it's really great, actually. You're in for a treat.
It was probably some of the best 2 hours of my life, and that's a big call. But when you listen to this interview, you will know why. It was incredible. So many unanswered questions answered.
My little 12-year-old self would be so proud and thrilled that me and Steps International were interviewing two great songwriters who defined those years of my life, and what a treat.
Would you say that would you say that your little 12-year-old self was unleashed, Bradley?
Oh, Scott can tell you, yes, he was unleashed.
And actually, I mean, you'll hear it, but Paul called Brad the FBI of pop.
This is my golden era. This is my moment. This is my Steve Anderson interview.
Should we... There's a lot to go through, so should we just go straight to the news, because there is so much going on in the Steps world alone that could be a whole episode.
There absolutely is. I mean, here's for a quiet year while they're on a break, but let's get into it. So let's start off with Claire. Firstly, right as we were publishing our last episode, Claire announced the vinyl release of her first album, My Wildest Dreams, and it's going to be a limited edition signed press pink vinyl that's coming out on the 28th of June, and so you can pre-order that your own copy from your preferred outlet by going to the link tree on Claire's Instagram page.
And have you both ordered yours yet?
Absolutely.
I have, actually. I'm glad that it's available on TM stores, because that's the only way I can sort of get it sent to Australia, I think. So yeah, and it's not out when I'm there, and I'm not picking it up in November. Anyway, Claire's also announced that she's going to star in a brand new concert show called Everybody Dance. The show will feature an ensemble group of dancers and vocalists as Claire performs some of the greatest dance and disco hits of all time. So she's already confirmed that she's going to be doing a few songs from Euphoria. Enough is Enough, So Emotional, and other songs include I Will Survive, Don't Start Now, Everybody's Free, Lady Marmalade, Could It Be Magic, and Only Girl in the World. And so far, they've announced 15 dates across October and November, and you can get a ticket at everybodydancelive.co.uk. Scott and I are going to go because the last couple of dates are in November when we were there. So, yeah.
We need to figure which one out we're going to go to, because there's one before and one after the opening night of the musical. So we need to figure that out.
The trailer is out now and is the campus thing I have seen in a long time. She's doing the Glee version of... In the trailer, there's the Glee mashup version of Survivor and I Will Survive. And oh my God, this is going to be the best night out. I am So jealous.
We'll send you videos and Snapchats. Well, maybe not Snapchats. We're not that young. Speaking of Claire, we haven't finished. So it's also been announced that Claire will play at Bristol Pride on Saturday the 13th of July. For all of Claire's upcoming gigs, you can visit either her website or Claire Richard Central on the socials, and they have links for everything that Claire is doing coming up. Moving on to Faye. Faye has also had a really busy few weeks. Firstly, she did Instagram Live with the Executive Menopause Coach, where she talked about her ongoing journey with perimenopause, and you can watch it on Faye's Instagram. Next up, she announced that she'll be playing Carabosse.
Yeah, so that's like
Carabussy.
another version of... Who's that person that Angelina Jolie played in the Disney movies?
Maleficent.
Yeah, so it's like an alt version of Maleficent. I did a bit of research on that. I was like, never heard of that in my life. But anyway.
Am I saying that right? Carabosse?
I think it is Carabosse.
Carabosse. Anyway, she's playing Carabosse in Sleeping Beauty pantomime, playing at the New Victoria Theatre in working across December to January later on this year. And you can get your tickets by Googling Sleeping Beauty at the New Victoria Theatre. Claire's husband, Reese, commented that the performance will be on his and Claire's doorstep, and Faye responded that she'll be popping around with eggnog. Very cute.
Adorable.
I love seeing them when they interact with each other online. It's so great. Now, we were talking about camp before, right? Talk about camp. Finally, she's announced that she will be starring as the role of Cruella de Vil in the UK tour of 101 Dalmatians the musical. Faye will be performing at the Norwich Theatre, the Marlow Theatre in Canterbury, and the Wolverhampton Grand Theatre and Leicester Curve across July and August. So for full tour details and tickets, head to 101dalmatians.co.uk. But Faye is sharing the role with Kim Marsh from Hearsay. So if you want to see Faye, make sure you pick the right dates. There's a bunch of dates that they haven't announced for later on in the year too, so I wouldn't be surprised if she pops up more. But I loved seeing her in the Cruella. I was like, okay, that's Faye Tozer playing the role of Michelle Visage, playing the role of Cruella de Vil. So I was like, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Camp as
Brilliant.
So the announcement of her performing in the musical was accompanied by a chaotic appearance on Lorraine, where Faye was joined by a Dalmatian puppy who immediately ate Faye's mic and then spent the rest of the interview hiccuping in Lorraine's arms.
It was very funny. I think though my favourite moment of the whole thing is when Lorraine's got the puppy, she's clearly distracted, and then she awkwardly segues by going, I don't know if this will make the role of Cruella de Vil any better, but you've also been going through perimenopause. It's like, wow, that is a clumsy segue if I've ever heard one, but
Lorraine.
And but good on Lorraine for turning up to work that day. And if there's anyone on Twitter, you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, there's an account on Twitter where every day it tells you if Lorraine turned up to work or not, because it's this running joke that Lorraine never hosts her own show. So it's an account that literally just every day says Lorraine hosted her own show today.
So good.
Okay, let's talk about the boys. So Lee has also been a little bit busy. He played in a charity celebrity soccer match at Watford FC on the 5th of May. He did it on behalf of the charity Grief Encounter. And I also know that this is a charity that's pretty close to his heart. I know that he's done similar work for these kinds of charities. I know he did one for, I think it was Cruise Bereavement. He ran a marathon shortly after the passing of his dad, but I know that's something that's really close to his heart. So good for you, Lee. It's also been announced that he'll be starring as Jack in Jack and the Beanstalk at Watersmeet Theatre in Rickmansworth from 6th to 31st of December. Now, fun fact of trivia, this is actually the second time he's done this panto at this theatre, having done his first season back in 2016. So hopefully it will be an abridged rehearsal time for Lee. And if you want to get a ticket, you can go to watersmeet.co.uk, and we will probably be sharing links in this episode as well. We can't forget our H. He was on the first episode of Joe Lycett's TV show, because as you may remember, we talked about this last episode. There were reports that there was going to be a statue in his honor in his hometown. We suspected that might be a little bit of fake news, and H appeared on the Joe Lycett show to confirm that it was fake news. Obviously, I still feel like he deserves a statue one day, but hopefully if he does get a statue, it'll look a little bit more like him. Now, he's also recently appeared on both The One Show and Bridge of Lies in the UK, and I want to give a quick shout out to the Steps Geek YouTube channel. You are brilliant. They always post all of these videos like right after it happens. That's where we saw the Faye video as well. So give the Steps Geek YouTube channel a follow, and you can watch those videos of One Show, Bridge of Lies, Lorraine and the Puppy, all those shows there. Finally, H will also be presenting his second collection, Adre, at the Adamo Gallery in Cardiff from the 18th of May.
So moving on to lovely Queen Lisa, she's had a quieter month this month. She did do Harmony House last month, and we spoke about that in our last episode, but we do understand that one of Lisa's good friends has passed away. So from us here at Glitter and Gold, we'd like to extend our deepest condolences, and we hope that you are getting all the love that you need from your family in this time and looking after yourself. We will say that Lisa and her fabulous weave have recently been in the UK for a 2-week workshop for the Here and Now musical, which we all saw on the socials. So Weave Watch is still in session. And from what we can tell, the band attended. So moving on to Full Steps news now. So what we can tell is the band attended at least some of the workshop and appeared to be filming content which will be coming out closer to release. They also announced that the musical has been extended by an extra week due to phenomenal demand and will now play until the 30th of November at the Alexandra Theatre in Birmingham. Also with Steps in addition this month, let's quickly talk about Deeper Shade of Blue. Not only did they release the vinyl, they then surprise dropped both the remixes on streaming platforms and a video clip for Deeper Shade of Blue, Steps 25 Revisited Edition. The fabulous Chris Fox has worked his magic once again, and he has made an incredible video using every single millimeter of the original footage and upgrading to 4K. It's absolutely fucking brilliant. Yes, that is correct.
So good. And yeah, he literally has used every single split second of footage I think that is available, and it looks phenomenal. Incredible job.
Speaking of the Deeper Shade of Blue vinyl, Scott and I posted a little thing on the socials. We what time did we get there, Scott? We got there like 6:30 in the morning or something like that.
6:30, yeah. We got up. I think you got to mine at about 6. We were panicking because the record store we went to, Discrepancy Records, shout out in Melbourne, it's kind of like the main one where everyone goes, and we had heard from people we knew that were lining up from like 4 in the morning. Some people had been lining up since the night before. When we got there at 6:30, it was the line was around the corner down like a residential street. There was probably about 200 people in front of us, would you say?
No, probably about 150. But like it looked a lot bigger than what it was when everyone sort of stood up and squashed together. But there was still quite a number of people in front of us. But we got there. So the plan was to wake up, get there at around 7 o'clock. And I happened to wake up like just before 5, read my messages, and my friend who was already in line was like, oh, there's 100 people in front of us. And we're like, what the fuck? So I messaged Scott straight away and I said, oh, I'm getting ready, I'm coming now. And by the time we got there and everything, because of where I live, we got there about 6:25 or something like that. We didn't walk into the store until about 9:30.
Yeah.
So we were lining up for 3 hours, but we got what we got.
We got him.
Was there like an energy in the street though? Were they people playing music? You know,
not so much people playing music, just an energy in the line of everyone.
And we made friends with the people in front of us, and we're like, because we were talking about what ones we're going to get, and everyone was checking the numbers because there was a live stock on hand tally. So people were checking if what they wanted had been sold out, and it was a bit of a vibe. It was quite fun. I wouldn't do it again, but it was a vibe.
Well,
depends
what kind of, because I think that this has been quite successful, and so I think there will be another RSD edition of something with Steps next year, but there might be 1 or 2 releases. I think if you're listening, Faye, Claire, Lee, H, and Lisa, we're telling you what we want.
Okay, Scott, tell us what this episode's all about.
So last year, Lisa re-released her debut album Never or Now to celebrate 20 years since the release of Lately, and many of you might know that the album was originally titled Unleashed, hence why the digital version of the re-release was called the Unleashed Digital Deluxe Edition. To celebrate Lately turning 21 this year, we were extremely lucky enough to chat to Pete Day and Paul Bronze Newton from Point 4, who wrote and produced Lately, Too Far Gone, I Wait For You, and a number of tracks intended to make up the original Unleashed album back in 2003. Brad and I both missed the beaten side doing this interview, as Pete and Bronze gave us story after story about working with Lisa and really helped to give us answers we've been wanting for 21 years. And look, we asked all the questions and they delivered and gave us the answers to things that we have been wanting the answer to for all these years. And we are so excited to be able to help tell the story that has never been told before until now. So, without further ado, let's take a listen. We are so excited to have two guys on the podcast today who have not only had incredible careers separately, with one working with the likes of Kylie, Bananarama, and Donna Summer, and the other working with the likes of Louise, Five, and Darude. Together, they are partly responsible for some of, honestly, the most loved and iconic Lisa Scott Lee tracks from her solo career. It honestly is a massive pleasure to be chatting with Pete Day and Paul Bronze Newton from Point 4. Welcome, guys.
Well, thank you very much. What a great intro. Thank you, Tom and Brad.
Yeah, sounds brilliant.
I'm sure you've never had an intro like it.
No.
Superb. Well worked. Yeah, good.
If you told me 20 years ago that, I'd be having this chat one day, I would be like, I wouldn't believe it, to be honest. I'm very excited. These songs kind of defined my childhood to a certain extent. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity today to talk to you guys about it.
That's great. I mean, when these songs, they become, with every artist, they become legendary as time goes by. When it's like 20, 30 years, all of a sudden you get this revamp of people that have had their childhood, their songs. So it's good to hear, really good to hear.
Yeah. And like, as I said before we started recording, I hope that you guys know that these particular bunch of songs that you did work on, Lisa, with, they're so loved in the Steps, community. And I know that it's always nice when I see Lisa always seems to have such fond memories of that time with the both of you. And so I hope that you can feel the love, especially last year with the reissue of the album for the 20th anniversary. Like, I hope you guys saw just how much love there is for those songs as well.
We do. I have to say, it was really good to see her going and actually singing them and going and playing them out, which is really good on some of the festivals in the UK.
So I guess to kind of start, just to set the scene, how did the both of you meet? Because I know Point 4 was originally 4 of you. There was also Phil Dyson and Daniel Sherman. So I guess how did all of you essentially meet and then create? How did Point 4 originate?
Let's go first, mate.
Okay, I'll go in first. All right. Okay, so I was working. I'd started a long time ago at PWL Studios, which is Stock Aitken Waterman and Kylie and Jason, all that kind of stuff. And I left Mike Stock because it was Mike Stock Studios at that time, just working with Mike and Matt. And I'd left them, and we had a good keyboard player there called Phil Dyson. So he was a tape op assistant, but he was actually a good keyboard player as well. So when he said, I was going to believe it, and he said, did you want to start something together? So we started a company called Dyson Day Productions, and we were doing, basically trying to get ourselves noticed on our own. I was trying to make, my own stamp, if you like, and we got I had quite a lot of contacts still, so I managed to, have contacts still at BMG because I knew Simon Cowell and people like that quite well. And also Cheeky Records because I did some remixes for them originally. So we set up in Phil Dyson's very, very large flat in Vauxhall, and we were just making records and doing as many remixes and top lines and anything that we could do really. And we managed to make a little bit of a mark. We did some stuff. Rob Dugan, Club to Death, which is quite a big remix that we did, and through Cheeky we managed to work on some stuff, so a Faithless remix and stuff like that. And then we ended up going to, I'm not sure how it happened actually, we ended up going to speak to Eddie Gordon. Now, Eddie Gordon used to be at PWL, and this is where Bronzy comes in.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background for myself. I started out from an artist's point of view. I was in a band called Storm. We did a lot of touring around the UK. It was our idea to tour in girls' schools, which was quite original at the time. There was only one other band that was doing it. I'm sure you've heard of them. Take That.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I've heard of them. Yeah, they sound familiar.
Definitely.
Yeah, so they were quite rivals with us. We were doing the schools, they were doing the schools. You know, part of it's happened to me many times in my life. When you get a 50-50 chance, me or the others always seem to get it. Not always, but at the time, yeah. So that was what was going on. We was doing that for a good few years, and eventually got a bit long in the tooth of it with the ultimate the failure and the collapse of the band. But I then went on. I was the songwriter of the band anyway, so I went on to form a production company called UCP, which is Union City Productions, with Daniel Sherman, who was a local singer at the time. He was a keyboard player. We hit it off. We were writing quite prolifically, writing song after song after song. I'm trying to be as quick and short as I can, but we had a few releases through Mercury at the time, which of course was the connection with Eddie Gordon, because he was the MD there and blah blah. So we then they then formed Neo Records, which is up Fulham Broadway, Chelsea. Fantastic hub. It was like there was people flying in. I mean, you name it, they were coming in and out of that building day in, day out. We had a little studio at the top. There was a massive studio down the bottom, which in the end we ended up having. But from a songwriting point of view, I thought we were great. I thought we were brilliant. I thought we were cutting it, and the feedback we were getting all the time. We were doing a lot of top lines on other people's music. But from a production point of view, we weren't cutting it, and that's the absolute truth. So Eddie said, look, we've got these couple of guys we've met up with. Why don't you meet up with them? Which was Phil and Pete. And they're cutting it on the production side. You're cutting it on the songwriting level. Get together, see how it goes. And the rest is history.
Amazing. And then, so from there, how did you meet Lisa in the end? Was it specifically for this project, or had either of you crossed paths with her before? How did that come to be?
Tiny bit of a background with the Steps scenario. Although I never actually met her, I knew the guy that put Steps together. So there was always like, sort of ships passed in the night. But actually meeting her before she was successful with Steps, no. But I knew of her, and I knew of Steps, obviously, and I knew the person that put it together and blah blah. But no, sorry, mate. Pete, go for it.
No, that's all right. So I didn't actually know Lisa prior, but obviously I didn't even meet the Steps, the group at all, because I was actually with Mike Stock Studios at the time, and that was exactly running in parallel. So while that was carrying on, we were doing, our records, Robson and Jerome and stuff like that at the same time. So we didn't actually meet. But I think it was a good recommendation that she knew that I'd been there, etc., etc. So there was that kind of like tie-in, and the tie-in with Bronzy. So the way it actually came around is that we were signed to BMG Records as an artist at the time. So Point 4 Records.
Point 4, yeah.
Yeah. And we had a track signed to them called The First Time, and they did loads of mixes of it. And essentially what we were doing lots of top lines for people. So singing, we were basically getting a backing track from, normally a DJ. And we were basically writing a whole song over the whole top of it. And we did a track called Harry's Afro Hut, I believe. Bronzy was the track.
Yeah, the track was called Come On Lady by Harry's Afro Hut, was actually also known as Curtis Mantronics.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure you've heard of Mantronics.
Yes.
He had a club, at least in Australia. I know that he had a big club hit with How Did You Know?
Yeah. He's been around a long time. Lots of pseudonyms and stuff like that. We didn't even know Harry's Afro Hut was him either. But so yeah, sorry, Pete. You want to carry on?
Yeah. So she basically heard that, and she said, "Who did it? Who did the track over the top of it?" And somehow she got in contact with us, and she said, could she cut it? We did. Did we cut it with her? I think we did. Didn't we? Did we actually do a vocal over that or not in the end? I can't remember.
I think we did have a go with it just as a practice vocal session, but the track was already being released. But it was just a bit of a get together. She did have a pop of it, yeah. So there was a view to doing it, but I don't think. I think this is just off the top of my head, but I didn't think she wanted to be featuring Lisa Scott Lee.
That's right. She wanted to be an artist, didn't she? Yeah.
Because that was quite the thing at the time, to do like a DJ in a female vocal feature. That was quite the thing in that time as well.
Quite the thing, yeah, definitely. So she was on the sort of warpath for all sort of the younger producers that were out there doing it. I'm sure that there was others she was meeting up with, but we just hit it off with her. And then of course one thing led to another, and we said, look, let's get together. I found out that we found out that she could. I mean, a lot of art, not a lot of artists. All artists say they can write songs. All of them. Can they? Who knows, right? But she actually could. She was quite good. She came up with some good melodies, and we got together and we started writing.
I've got a bit of a deep cut here. Do you remember her having to use a black pen?
No.
Well, she did use a black. That's why I said.
There was a moment in her TV show where she said, "I can only write with a black pen. Please give me a black pen." Or might have been a blue pen. Don't forgive me, Lisa, if I got that wrong. But she could only write with one color pen. So she had done a couple of solo songs within Steps that had been quite well received, like dancier songs as well. Did you have an opinion of her, or them, or even of Steps before you started working together?
Well, I actually loved it, to be honest. Because I still had lots of friends. Sorry, I had lots of friends at PWL. So I actually took. I used to go back every now and then. I remember seeing Deeper Shade of Blue, the video before it was out and stuff like that. And actually, my wife took my son Callum to see them at Wembley Arena. So he says he was really young and he was a massive fan. So I was just glad they were having hits.
So we have Callum to thank for your collaboration.
We do, yes, definitely.
Thank you, Callum. So by the sounds of it, it sounds like you worked with Lisa before she was signed to Mercury. So was there kind of a brief, like when you started working with her, or do you remember the timeline, if that helps?
I'm guessing, Bronze, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was the reason she got signed to Mercury. It's that we've done some tracks and they, probably even rough demos, and they gone, okay, this is something that we could run with. I might be wrong there, but I'm thinking that would have been the timeline.
No, absolutely. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. Once we started whacking them out, she was putting around. I think there was a few labels interested, but she definitely had a connection, which I know we're going to come to something around Steve Lillywhite later on, but she definitely had a good connection there with him. They got on really well and hit it off. Yeah, but no, without doubt, the sort of the demos we were putting. I mean, when we talk about demos, even back then, a lot of the demos, especially today, demos end up being masters. With a one or two mixes out. They're not like sitting there with a guitar and just trying to sing a melody. Demos back in the day were pretty close to being the final records anyway.
How many songs have you done with her before she got signed?
Yeah, so I think again, from memory, I was thinking about it today. I think we did that initial vocal test with "Come On Lady." We then wrote, I think it was either "Let Me Inside" or "All I Need." Okay, and then the next time we got together, we wrote "Lately."
Amazing.
So it was about the third writing session, and the fourth writing session was "Too Far Gone." So we knew, and bear in mind that they were like a week apart. So we'd do "Lately" one week and "Too Far Gone" the following week, and that's just the way it rolled. And we was on a roll, and I think the fact that the energy and everyone was bouncing off each other. Obviously, she was getting excited because she's hearing herself as a solo artist. The tracks were very current of the time. We felt we were current at the time anyway, and of course the labels thought they were current at the time. So everyone was quite excited, and of course when you got that momentum going, we didn't want to stop. So yeah, I think in the end, like I said, it was about 8 to 10 tracks in the end, and we were ambitious. We wanted to do the whole album. You know what I mean?
We wanted the album. Yeah, definitely.
Let's do the whole lot.
It's kind of interesting you say that, because to be honest with you, for me personally, when I think of this album, even though in the end you had 4 tracks that made the album that eventually came out, I always still think that it was like a Point 4 and Lisa collab. Like I always think of Point 4 as the main contributors to this album, even though, as you said, you didn't do the whole album, but it kind of felt like there was a real like partnership between the two of you that maybe there wasn't with the other producers or writers on the album.
100%. I mean, we definitely. Sorry, mate. We 100%, because we definitely felt that we was going to end up doing most of the album, and I think when the final album that we've just heard back in October together, that's a collection of quite a few years.
Yeah,
where when you go back to where the original album was, there might have only been another 2 or 3 writers that were going to be on that album that was being put together behind the scenes. As far as we was concerned, and as I said, we know it come to a grinding halt, sadly, but at the time we thought this is going to happen, and we were going to be the main guys on it. With her, like I say, it just worked, As you hear in the past, with all artists, they find their right producers and they stick with them. Simple as that.
There was such, I think, you say that, you know, when Lisa heard Lately and those songs and started to see herself as a solo artist, I think there was such a beautiful synergy between, I guess, because this was around the time that Asia Claire had kind of fallen apart, and it was kind of, I know a lot of, it might have been, Scott, you may have to cancel this. I just want to ramble for a second. Like, basically, I feel like, you know, you together, you kind of created a vision of an audio vision board of what Lisa could do and what Lisa could be. And that was a really, I guess, unique stamp for her. Like, you know, and then it also helped contribute to her image. It was a little bit more grown up, but it wasn't, you know, too far gone, unintended, from the Steps days. It was a really, and I think, yeah, your songs were the best, I think, on the album, my opinion. Now, obviously, there were 4 of you in point 4, and then there's Lisa. So there's 5 people in a room. How did you come to a consensus during the writing and production process? I imagine that's quite a few chefs in the kitchen. And was it an easy process, I guess, working together?
We were quite used to our system that we had, and where like Pete and Phil would be sitting there grinding out backing tracks. Sherman was quite good, very good actually with keyboards. I was probably the least musician out of the lot, but I was more of a top liner and a lyricist. However, so they'll be sitting there grinding out beats and grooves constantly, and then collectively we would then start coming up with melodies, and there might be 10, 15 melodies going over the same backing track, and then collectively we go, we like that, we don't like that. We were reasonably brutal amongst us, but again, likewise, Lisa fitted into that quite well because she could see. Bear in mind, this picture of this studio was at, as Pete said earlier on, it was like a big penthouse flat. So where the studio was at the back with a built vocal booth, sitting back from it with these big armchairs. So it was all very, very relaxed. It wasn't in like a, you know, of course, there's someone in the kitchen making it. It was a very, very relaxed atmosphere. So we're all sitting there back in the chairs. We're listening to these grooves coming through, and we're sitting there coming up with melodies. And like I say, 15, 20 melodies. And then we'd select them down to 5, 6 that would actually fit together. And whilst this is happening, I might be sitting there writing a lyric, or Pete might come up. Pete was very good at titles, by the way. And it will come up with.
Thank you.
No, you were. And so everyone was just grinding away like a machine. And that was always the way with us. It was just like a little machine, wasn't it, Pete? Just ticking over the whole time, you know?
No one was precious because the goal was, I mean, we split everything. Whenever we worked together, we split everything anyway. But the point was, it was just like the goal was just to make the best track. And however we got that, it didn't matter, basically, which was lovely.
So really, the ultimate answer is that she did fit into the system very well anyway.
We mentioned before Steve Lillywhite, because we believe he was the MD of Mercury at the time. And he kind of, I think he left halfway through to work solely on U2's third album, How to Create Atomic Bomb. So during those early stages, how involved was he? Because you said that he definitely was part of the reason Lisa got signed. So was he involved much with what you guys were doing?
Can I jump in? He was brilliant. He was so fun. He was just amazing in the studio. Basically, I remember him saying, I don't know what you guys do, but I love it. It's great. And he was dancing around the studio. He just brought so much energy. He was brilliant, you know. So whether he wasn't actually instrumental, in saying what we should do or what we shouldn't do. You know, he just loved what we did. He came down to listen to the mixes sometimes and stuff like that. So he was great fun. It's quite interesting actually, because he went off to go and do that, and actually a tape op that I actually worked with ended up producing some of the tracks on that U2 album as well. So that's weird. A guy called Carl Granville. So that's really weird. I only found that out afterwards. But no,
and I've got a bit of a conflict of a memory there, because I actually thought he went off. He got an invitation to go off to produce the latest Killers album.
Oh wow!
So there you go. That's what I thought. But there you go. I'm wrong. I'm obviously wrong.
I'm going with you too, I have to say.
We brought that up for a couple of reasons. One, because I just love the idea that, you know, this guy, that Steve was working on Lisa's album and then left that to help produce the U2 album, which won Album of the Year at the Grammys. The other thing as well is that, and we might get onto this later, is that my understanding is that Steve was a big champion for Lisa behind the scenes. And
Massive.
that might have been part of what we saw later, which we might talk about later as well. Part of why things changed as they did, possibly?
Well, I think it was a pivotal point. If we go back to the fact that, you know, we were making tracks together, we were making tracks for her, with her, and we were, as far as we were concerned, we were just collating the whole album. But I think it was after like 6 or 7 tracks, that's when it's like, right, okay, well, Lisa's now going to go and work with other producers, and that kind of like went, oh, okay. So there was quite a big pause, and I think that was probably at that same time when Steve left.
So wait, when you say when Lisa went to work with other producers, was this before the singles came out, or was this after Too Far Gone?
Bronze, you'd have to tell me.
Yeah, no, I think it was after, but there is a story that does need to be told, that I'm sure we're going to get round to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
But
I'm excited.
I feel it's the right time to say it because the third single.
I'll wait for you.
Oh wait, should we? Let's go and
we'll build the suspense.
Let's build the suspense. Let's...
Okay. We'll build the suspense then. But yeah, it was roughly about the same time. And going back to Steve with Lily White, then they had a really good relationship. I mean, they would go out for lunch, chat, and I think he took her under his wing. I mean, he's obviously extremely experienced guy, you know, absolute legend. And she spoke very highly of him, and Steve this, you know, and yeah, I mean, all these stars have to have these people they look up to, and she looked up to him. Why not?
I guess if we start to then deep dive into the songs, and I think we have to start with the big one, the debut single, Lately. It was a top 10 single. It was a debut single. As I said earlier, it's a song that I know for Brad in particular, it's, you know, it means a lot to him. It's one of my favorite Lisa tracks in the fandom. It's just so, it's become, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, it's become like a Hun anthem. I don't know if either of you know what that even means, but it's become in this new generation, you know, it's become a thing for the new generation. But when talking about the creation of the song, Lisa always talks about writing it in 20 minutes and then you all went for a curry. So I would love to know the story behind that, and just in general, what are the memories of making this track?
I'm going to go. Yeah, go on, Bronze. You go.
I was going to say that it's pretty much true, and as I mentioned earlier on, it was about the third track we recorded, and it just flowed. It just flowed. It was one of those things. Unless peaking, I'm not actually 100% sure who come up with Lately as the title. I can't remember.
I did. I did have the title written on. I had written Too Far, that one and Too Far Gone, written on a train ticket. When I was bored on the train, I used to write titles down, and I remember having the train ticket. I should have it somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I do. But yeah, we did definitely go for a curry, and it was after that. Because if you've been working for an artist, because it's always a little bit, you know, getting to know each other, and then we went, look, you know, let's go for a curry. So we went. I think it was Clapham. We went for a curry. You know, and she introduced me to mushroom rice, which I hadn't before. But that was, you know, so thank Lisa for that.
To what? Sorry.
Mushroom. If you're an Indian, mushroom rice.
Okay.
I'll give it a try. I've never had it.
Neither.
Right. Okay. Yeah, but it was you know, thinking back now, even as we're talking, I think it was one of those things that were just flowing. It was actually quite a quick session, and it was one of the things like, you know, I mean, we've done it many times where we go, right, let's write a hit today, and of course it never happens. You're sitting there for 10 hours grinding it out, and again, it was just the third session. Listen to a backing track. Title was already there, which was just established. A few melodies floating around, lyrics are written pretty quickly, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this from many artists before. It would just come together very fast. Yeah, and I think, and of course, it was like, right, we're facing the curry then. And it was a case of that. Yes, we're off of it.
I feel like it would have been, and I feel like Bronze, like it would have been you that would have suggested the curry. I don't know. I'm getting this vibe.
you know
Bronze, you too well.
I'd have curry every day.
When you wrote it as well, did you feel like, was there just a feeling in the room like, oh, this is the first single, or this is going to be something? Like, was there a different feeling with this towards the others that you had written at that time?
I'm going to say yes, and the reason it is because I've been involved with a lot of writers, you know, prior to Stock Aitken and stuff like that, and it's the simple ones that come quickly that are normally the best because they translate to everybody.
Mm.
And people
Yeah.
say, you know, well, it's just so simple. You know, how can you do that? It's like, well, they're the hardest things to write. I always say to people, go and write a nursery rhyme. It's really, really hard. It sounds tween, it sounds naff, but you go and write one, it's really hard. And I think, you know, you've made something special. I think when, you know, you like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks, you can't remember how you did it.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't constructed. It just kind of happened.
It did just happen very quickly. You know, I wish I could tell you it was a long haul and, you know, we was reading newspapers and cutting out lyrics. It wasn't. It happened quick, and like I say, but to me, that's where the magic is. Sometimes it happens fast, and you go like, "Oh, okay, that's a hit then." And that's it.
Yeah,
that's what it.
Do you remember like when you recorded it? At least the initial demo? Just because, so in our, like, on my memory of, I guess, Lisa's early career, basically from like February to August of 2002, she was managing her brothers. And then that project ended. And then I don't know when she started recording for a solo album. So it'd be just, this is, you know, just fan fulfillment on my end. I just want to understand the timeline. If you guys can remember, it was 22 years ago, to be fair.
Yeah,
we would have dates. We would have dates on docs and dats and stuff like that. I mean, we'd have to go and check, but we would have the dates of it if you're actually really interested. So
Scott would know. I would love to, I would actually love to know. Just genuinely curious. So okay, so that aside, we know that in November 2002, an early version of the song was either leaked or intentionally kind of distributed to kind of test the waters. It had a harder dance sound. The intro was definitely a lot dancier. I guess, do you know kind of, can you say whether or not that was an intentional leak, whether that was just a feeler in the, I guess, the pop marketplace to see whether there was much of an interest? Do you know much about what happened there?
Do you guys even know that happened?
Well,
I don't remember it.
I know. I know that I didn't actually know. I didn't actually know it specifically happened for that, but I knew it happened a lot. That's what people do. They would sometimes they put out a track by Britney Spears, for argument's sake, that's not got Britney Spears on it. You know, it'd be like, I don't know, whatever. And just to test that water, and I'm pretty sure it would have happened with Lisa, because obviously, you know, there's a lot of money that's to come into these tracks and blah blah. And when people are just before they're going to sign a big deal, they think, let's go and see if this is actually going to work. You know. So I'm sure it did happen. It certainly did happen with other artists we work with, but I wasn't completely aware that particularly happened at that time, or not from memory anyway. But again, we was as guilty of it as well, because we would slip out our own dub versions to mates and DJs to play things, not say this is Lisa Scott Lee or Rachel Stevens or Blue or whoever. We would just slip it out there and see what happens. You know, I mean, there was one night and this is the truth. We had a covered track come in. Junior Jack, I think his name was.
Oh yeah,
Thrill Me, right?
Yeah.
So it comes in on the Thursday. We wrote the track on the Thursday. We sung the track on the Friday. We thought this is really happening. We sent it out to A&R about 5 o'clock. And I was driving home from the studio at 6 o'clock, and it was on Capital Radio.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. It was that quick. So yeah, it did happen. I think it did happen quite fast, and you know, yeah. So sorry, I can't help you on that.
I was going to say, do you remember because the version Brad's referring to, it just sounds harder. It's got like a harder dance sound to it. And I don't know if you either remember, was there an earlier version of Lately that was a little bit harder dance sounding and then it was altered slightly? It's only very subtle, but it just sounds a little harder, especially in the intro. Do you have any memories of that?
The only thing I can say,
yeah, you'd have to listen to Pete, wouldn't you? You'd have to hear it, wouldn't you, mate?
if I heard it, I'd be able to tell you exactly.
I'll send it to you. We've got it.
Yeah, send it to me. The only thing I can say is it must have been an earlier mix. That's the only thing. It's an earlier mix, because the record was the record.
Yeah.
You know, what we actually produced on that day and sang on that day didn't really change much. It wouldn't have changed much after that. You know, we might have done a harder version and then, you know, found a new drum loop or something like that and then put that on. But I mean, I kind of remember writing it over exactly what it ended up being. But you know, that's may have faded in time.
Me too. I mean, we were doing multiple remixes of every track, not just Lisa. Every track, weren't we, Pete? I mean, we were just like we were doing 4 or 5 different mixes. It's not to say that one of them could have been tougher, and we've given it as a demo to one of the managers, and like I say, it's gone out as a white label, as a whatever. I'm not sure.
So you know how you mentioned the Britney Spears thing earlier about songs being labeled as Britney Spears but not being Britney Spears? There was a rumor online that this song was initially put out under Atomic Kitten. Like it was like it was always Lisa's vocal, but basically it was slipped out as Atomic Kitten / Lately. So can you dispel once and for all? Did Atomic Kitten ever do a version of Lately?
No, I can tell you where they come from. That comes from
We
we
did
actually
work with Atomic Kitten. Sorry.
Well, you go Bronze because you know Andy better than I do.
Yeah, I mean, we had quite a lot of affiliation with Atomic Kitten, and we worked with him, especially the manager, quite a few times. I do not remember. We did not record Lately with Atomic Kitten, and as far as I'm aware, Pete, they didn't do it.
No, they didn't do it.
No.
It's funny, that has been, honestly, this has been a rumor online for 22 years, Pete, and there's a lot of people that say, oh yes, I've heard a version of it, and I'm like, I'm fairly sure it's not true, so we can confirm it is not true.
Absolutely.
No. Yeah. But I'm sure the rumors, if they did come around, was purely because we were affiliated with that whole setup with Atomic Kitten and Andy McCluskey.
Yeah.
And we did do a remix of Atomic Kitten, so they might hear some of the similar sounds. Basically, they might sound, in a similar vein, because for that kind of probably 18 months, we had a sound, and we did a lot of work using that sound. So.
Do you remember what Atomic Kitten track you did mix? I was a massive fan of Atomic Kitten, so I'm just curious.
Was it Get It Up? What was it called? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Get It Up. Yeah, that's right. Pete, glad you remember that. I'm seeing that. No, I don't remember that. No, Get It Up. That's right.
I've never heard that song. What's that?
And it did have a similar drum groove to it. That's why.
Yeah, I feel like that might have been an unreleased track, because I've never heard of that song. Yeah,
we can send it to you.
Yeah, please. I'll send you the Lately demo. You send me.
Okay.
Don't tell the label.
I got to say, Bronze, you kind of looked like there was something you wanted to say, an extra bit to that story. Is there anything else to the story that you can share? I see something in the smile.
Don't want to get myself into trouble.
Oh, fine. No, it's all good. We're not that kind of podcast. No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So, did you have any input into the video or into Lisa's ultimate image beyond just the songs, or was it left to Lisa and her management, Steve, and that team at this point?
I would say Lisa's brilliant at that stuff. We let her handle all of that stuff. We just make the music that we made with her, basically. She's brilliant at all that stuff. And
the marketing promotion teams made a fantastic job of Lately. I mean, they put out 5-second spills on the TV of just, I don't know if you saw it out there, guys, but there was like 5-second spills of her just flashing down with what she was wearing, red streaks coming through, and then it was gone, and coming back, then it was gone, and everyone was like, what the hell's that? They made a fantastic job. And I remember I was in Brighton that weekend writing with some guys, woke up Saturday morning, opened up the Sun newspaper, and at least Scott Lee was the full bizarre spread on it. I was like, great, here we go.
That was the 28th of March, 2003. It was, I know the date. Like that, I remember that was and I know the image as well. It's her bending over to tie up her lace or something. It was a brilliant job. You also worked on. Good. Oh, trust me, this is my. I'm already a niche Steps fan as it is, and then the Unleashed era. This is my holy grail. You also worked on the 56K mix. That was one of your, I guess, alter egos. What's your process when it comes to remixing? How did you find doing the remix for that?
Okay, so basically 56K came from, we were doing some more trancey tracks prior to this. Kind of a bit more in the early days, wasn't it, Bronze? And with a brilliant artist called BJ. And we ended up signing it to a friend of mine who was running Adele in the UK. And what's the German company that Scooter were on?
I can't
remember. No, it was a collaboration with them. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, they're gone there, aren't they? I'm not sure it was.
Contour. Is it Contour?
I'm sure.
I think it was Contour Records. So basically, we were the 56K featuring BJ. So we were the artists, and it was featuring our artist who was essentially signed to us. But then we did a licensing deal with Adele and Contour So that was kind of like, that's why it was called that. And essentially, you know, we've done the tracks and we just want to do another version of it. And so, you know, it went out with all the other mixes. But there was also some brilliant mixes done by Bimbo Jones.
Oh
So
yeah,
both,
yep.
and actually, I actually teach now in I teach music in university down where I am in Brixham in Devon, and he's actually been along to the university and done a couple of guest lectures, and he's
Amazing.
chatted about doing them. So that was quite fun. Yeah, and he's a great guy.
Amazing. And I guess, you know, Lately comes out, and as Bronze, you said, like the whole marketing around it was just brilliant and goes top 10. It's Lisa's first top 10 single, but I think from what we could see, it was also your first top 10 single as point four. So, I mean, just, it must have been an amazing feeling, right? To see this be so successful.
Yeah, as a collective, it was an amazing feeling because we come out of, as I said, the setup at Neo Records that I mentioned earlier on in Chelsea, and we were pop dance guys, you know, and over at Neo they were doing a lot more house jungle, but it was a lot heavier. So we were like frowned upon slightly, but we was trying to tell them to see our vision as a bit of a music factory. So when we came out of that situation into the penthouse flat as such, it was our own thing, you know, our own management, everything. And then of course when it worked, and it actually, I think from memory, I think it might have been our second project, but it was either our first or our second project away from Neo at the time. And of course it was the biggest success at the time. So yeah, it was great. It was great because we thought, you know, you prove the people that say you can't do it wrong, and it adds to it as well, you know. So our pop vision come through.
Did you get any other, because you mentioned Rachel Stevens and Blue, I guess, did any other people off the back of Lately start coming to you being like, hey, you kind of revamped, you know, Lisa's image, can you come do the same for us?
Yeah, there was a girl called Sarah Watmore, signed to 19.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we did Tonight's the Night with her.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we're going to come back to
Is that
Tonight's Night later.
the Gina G track, or is that
Sorry.
different?
Yeah. It was the same track.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That
But I
debunks
really
the question I know I was going to ask you about that song.
Yeah. So I just because I was really bugging myself for that Sarah Watmore name today. I was thinking, what was her name? What was that? Sarah Watmore. That's it. Yeah, she was great. So that was the link with the 19 situation. So we were in the. Well, I mean, we're jumping forward now away, but yeah. So we was actually then going to start working with Rachel Stevens on our solo projects and stuff. That was in the pipeline. And also, is it Hannah from S Club? As well.
Or maybe Joe.
Or Tina. It could be any
of them. Joe.
One of them.
Small girl with the blonde hair. I think. Yeah. Anyway.
It's Hannah. Yeah.
It's Hannah. Yeah. Anyway, so that was all in the pipeline, and that was because of the Lisa scenario. Yeah.
Amazing. Skipping forward to kind of April 2012 when Steps got back together, and Lisa on the Ultimate tour, she did an awesome mashup of Lately with Beautiful People and Heaven. Did you guys have any like anything to do with that, or have you heard that? What did you think it was? You know, opinions?
Well, we remember seeing it, and I have to say it was great just to see. To be honest, because after, you know, I don't want to put it down a bit. After it kind of like fell flat, it was just like, oh my god, you know, it could have been. You know, we think it could have been so much more. You know, if things could have continued, you know, she could have had a really successful album, and we could be doing more and more albums, exactly the same as a solo artist. So to see her go out and sing that in front of, you know, probably 10,000 people was brilliant, because it kind of almost vindicated the fact that, you know, it should have been that way. I would have said from what I know about, you know, live kind of stuff, it would have been the musical director that would have probably done the mashup, which that's what they tend to do. Basically, they, you know, they reform or they rejig a new, you know, a song into, you know, various versions. You know, I don't know how many versions of I Should Be So Lucky I've seen, but quite a lot.
Just one or two.
Yeah.
So, following the success of Lately, Lisa's official website announced that her second single would be left to a fan vote between Back in Time and Too Far Gone. Short snippets were posted of both songs, and the fans ultimately picked Too Far Gone to be the second single, which was released in September 2003, ultimately peaking at number 11. Can you tell us a bit about your memories recording the song or writing, that kind of thing?
Well, as I said earlier on, it was as far as I remember, was the next writing session. So we was on such a roll and we was buzzing, and I think so much so that I don't even think that Pete might correct me if I'm wrong. I don't. Even though we were talking about lately as a single, we then were thinking. Even Lisa was thinking maybe Too Far Gone is the first record, at the time because they were so close together. So we've had these what we thought was two pretty amazing records. We knew they were, we thought they were both hits. They obviously tended up being not as big as what we thought, but even so, they were still hits. And yeah, so it flowed. It just flowed. There were some other tracks, the slower tracks. Maybe we actually did one ballad and another mid-tempo, which I can't actually remember the name of the track about. But it was a very good track. But again, that was more of a grind. There was more of emotions there. We're talking about history and what we're going to put in it, and it was more relying on past experiences and stuff like that. But with something like Too Far Gone, I know everyone has got this critique of you left me with no. I know there's a bit of thing going on there. I know that.
Yeah.
And I actually think again, might be wrong. She might tell me I'm wrong, but I think she actually come up with that. So therefore there might be some connotations there with the steps thing. Maybe, I don't know. But essentially it was a love song, really. Leaving people. But yeah. So especially with the chant, for me, if you get, even when you've got like the credible bands like Coldplay, if you've got a chant going on that the crowd can sing back to you, it's great. So we knew if I've gone having that chant, and of course, having seen it lately, forgive the pun, having seen it lately in the concerts, then the audience singing it, they're even singing it before the song started. So that was the idea of having that chant in that song. And I think it actually came first. I think the chant came first. So yeah, so it went on from there. So we knew once we had that, it worked, it was magical. And then, like I say, lyrics, and as we said to you about how the system worked before, people throwing around a few melodies, and it come together again quite quickly. I don't know if we went out for a curry that night, but I think Pete knows where we went.
Might have been a pub, I don't know.
But judging by the vibe I'm getting from you two, it probably was a pub.
We did have one very close to the studio.
So can we dispel the second, I guess, mystery behind this project? So as far as you two are aware, in the room whilst writing the song, there wasn't any specific event that inspired the song.
No, not that I know of, no.
She didn't say, I'm angry about this today, let's write a song about this. It just happened that those lyrics kind of sounded like it could be alluding to something that we don't talk about in our podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Spot on.
Cool. Can't Stop the Pop. I've seen your written right up about Too Far Gone. They'll love this. They were pretty explicit that they felt like Lisa could have used this song in press to talk about the split and that she took the high road. But I guess now we can confirm that it actually wasn't necessarily related, so that's why it didn't come up. Second pop myth debunked.
I think actually the title might have come first. The title might have been written already, if that makes sense. It might have been labeled, and then the lyric came from the title. So
you would have had it written on your bus ticket or in your train ticket.
Yeah, I'm not taking credit for it. I'm just saying I think that was just we're going to write a song around that.
Similar to lately, there is an alternative radio mix out there of Too Far Gone, again with a harder dance sound compared to the final mix, which definitely was popified, especially in the intro. Do you recall there being multiple versions of the song produced as the final record?
I think there was an issue, not an issue, but I think we did mess around with the intro on that one. I think we did mess around with the intro. There was different versions. Quite often, the versions that we were doing originally might have been longer, and then they get edited down. And then they get edited down, and then if they go, right, that's the right version, then another mix is done. So that's when it gets harder or not harder.
Pete, didn't we do a mashup with Flawless? Absolutely Flawless.
We did.
We did, didn't we?
We did.
Oh,
I've got it somewhere.
Oh, that would be amazing to hear.
I'm sure I've got it.
And that going back to what we said earlier on about slipping things out, we did actually
about dropping a track.
Yeah.
And
which I'm sure it got played out many times.
Because George Michael, like a year later, had a single doing the exact same things. So,
yeah,
oh my god, that could have been. Oh, that could have been Lisa. See, again, there's so many kind of, as you say, Bronze, with the whole take that thing. There's so many moments in a pop star's life where it's a flip of a coin of whether or not something happens. Like if Steve hadn't left, if Lisa had put out the flawless interpretation before George Michael did, or even as like a re-release of Too Far Gone, there's so many things that could have happened. Oh God, I'm jazzed.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
the
you've got
other
to bear in
thing
mind.
as well, sorry, Bronze, is the other thing is that, it was top 10, but it was top 6, I believe, if I'm right, Bronze, and it was meant to be top 5.
For
Midweek,
lately,
it was top
yeah,
5.
Yeah.
lately was the
And
midweek was 4, and then it
4,
ended up
yeah.
at
Four,
6.
no, so it was 4 for the first day, then 5 for the rest of the week, and then 6.
No one saw R. Kelly coming.
Mm.
Apparently,
Oh.
R. Kelly moved his date of the release date. That wasn't meant to happen.
So R. Kelly, that was his second week at #1 though. So he debuted the week before, and then it was Girls
But
Aloud.
when you see a release schedule,
It wasn't there.
even music, yeah, you get like
Mm.
you know, and with all respect to Lisa at the time, they're not going to know whether that's going to be a hit or it's not going to be a hit. So there'll be artists, and I think Girls Aloud did the same thing that week. I'm pretty sure. So they would look at a schedule and they go, "Oh, we don't want to release that week." I tell you what, let's release that week. So of course, when we were looking at our schedule, we're thinking, I think the first like midweek it was. I think it was even again 3 or 4 or something. It was
4.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're thinking, oh, okay, on it. This is
And also, Too Far Gone, I think as well. I mean, again, if the first one had gone top 5 and the second one had got top 10, because it was top 10 midweek as well, if I'm
Number
correct.
9 all week.
Yeah, number 9 all week. That makes a big difference for a label. When they're investing, they go, right, okay, because the number 11 is a top 20.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And for us, it was a bit like, oh God, if we'd have got the top 5 and the top 10, that whole funding stream or whatever it is on people's opinions, I think we'd had more legs at that point.
Yeah, and it's frustrating when it's just by one number. It's how frustrating.
And it kind of unfortunately, ended up defining Lisa's whole solo career, really. That whole just missing the top 10, it kind of became the narrative behind, her and Mercury parting ways, the whole MTV thing. Just quickly, though, you mentioned moving release dates. So I do know that Too Far Gone was initially meant to be released August 25th. It was then moved to the 1st of September, then to the 8th. Presumably, as you say, because they wanted to avoid certain other releases. I would also, and I don't know what I or even you can say about this, there is a certain feeling, I guess, towards the fans, I mean, within the fan group, that maybe some of the support behind Lisa had kind of fallen away by the time the song came out. It did seem like there was less of a push behind it, if that makes sense. Do you guys recall feeling that same sentiment? Even though it was still going to be released and all that, it still felt like it'd been, pulled back a little bit?
Yeah, I think there was stuff going on behind the scenes around the Too Far Gone time. Like it seemed like the marketing that was behind lately wavered off a bit on Too Far Gone. We did have another unlucky thing that happened, and I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I've got to mention it. Her manager at the time, again, I'm not sure. I think it was Nathan. I think
it was it. Because I always thought Nathan came on after.
I thought it was Dennis Ings. I'm not sure, but basically the management at the time, they passed on an unmastered version of Too Far Gone to either the video production or Top of the Pops. But basically, when Too Far Gone landed, I think it might have even been CD UK, there was an unmastered version that went out. And I thought, Pete? Do you remember, Pete? We was all like, I can't believe this just happened. We were like, what? It was rectified, but it lost that impact of that. And trust me, I don't know if you guys know about the mastering. Well, obviously Pete's an expert, but it's a lot lower. And when you on the TV, everything shrinks. And I just think that I'm not making excuses, but it didn't help. It didn't help. And that was a bit of bad luck that could have been avoided, but it was rectified. And so with that, combination of, like, say, the marketing, they were feeling, well, obviously Steve would have known he was going. He would have had that contract coming up. He would have known. There was another guy coming in that we had a bit of history with, not the best history in the world. Yeah, so there was things going on, and I think Steve definitely saw Lisa as like the British Kylie, basically. I think that's what he did.
And that's what she was marketed as, and I think that was a good thing. In just last year, like we were talking about before, Lisa did a bunch of festivals, which was so amazing to see her out there performing these songs again, because she hadn't done anything in about 12 years prior to that as a solo artist. And she did a version of Tiff Gone. Then there's like an acoustic guitar breakdown. Like, have you guys heard that at all? What do you think of it?
Pete, have you heard that?
I don't know of it. So again, did we do it or not? I don't remember.
It might have been Ian Masterson, who was her musical.
Yeah.
But I always wonder how
Well-
that works in terms of like, getting the stems, or, getting how they actually like, because obviously I feel like sometimes they have to break down the original recording to make these alternative edits, or do they? I mean, they might just be rebuilding it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I think with the stems, I think with because obviously Mercury had the stems at the time, and I think, but I think Lisa got that back through concept. I think she managed to get all them back because it didn't come via us. So I think she managed to get that back off Mercury. So it's quite possible that she sent the stems out. But she's asked us on quite a few occasions. I think even recently she asked us for St. Pete, didn't she, for that tour she did up north?
Yes. Yes. Radio mixes, backing tracks, stuff like that. I'm not sure why they didn't have them, but I've got them.
Yeah.
So
for what?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So basically, she wanted. We did. So whenever this is going back, to Stock Aitken Waterman days. Whenever you do a mix, you always basically put an instrumental down, a backing track version down, which is without a lead vocal, and then you do a TV mix. So TV mix is basically got 3/4 level vocal. So you'll be singing live, but you'll be singing over the top. So if there's a technical error, there's still some vocal there rather than dying completely. So those are all kind of safety versions. So that's what we did on each of the tracks, and they were requested those. So I dug them out somewhere.
Yeah. But going back to the stems, I'm pretty sure Lisa would have had that and probably distributed it to Ian Masterson if they did an acoustic version. Or she might have re-sung it. Don't know. But I haven't heard that, Pete. Have you heard that acoustic version?
No.
We'll send you the YouTube link.
Yeah, it's not going to be it's not gonna be difficult for someone to remake.
Yeah,
they're just playing the chords. It's not going to be that complicated.
Around the time of Too Far Gone's release, it was announced that Lisa's debut album, Unleashed, would be coming out 3 weeks after Too Far Gone on September 29th. It was then, after Too Far Gone didn't do so well, it was then quietly kind of pushed back to late November. And it was also announced that the third single was going to be I'll Wait For You. Some release schedules even had the third single as a double A-side with the Strike cover You Sure Do, which she had been performing at gigs over the summer. So before we go into, I guess, what eventually ended up happening with Mercury, tell us a bit more about I'll Wait For You. Did Lisa come to you wanting to write a ballad, or was that just kind of the mood of the day?
Yeah, we as I say, Pete, what is the name of the mid-tempo track, Pete? I can't think of it. We did a mid-tempo track before we did the ballad.
Okay, I'll read them out to you. All I Need, Come On Lady, I Wait For You, Lately, Music Is My Lover, There Are Worse Things I Could Do,
Yep.
Thingy, Too Far Gone, What a Rush, Why Can't I?
Oh,
that was on some. I've seen lists of like Lisa songs. Yep, that was one of them.
Yeah.
You Sure
Why
Do,
Can't I?
Let Me Inside.
Yeah. Why Can't I? So we did this mid-tempo track, Why Can't I? And we was feeling it was really vibing. It was quite a little bit trancey, but it was good. Everyone liked it. We said, okay. So we said, look, let's go. If we're going to do, because obviously we're still in the vibe of doing the whole album here. Bear in mind, we've still got the whole album thing. Well, we've got to go for a ballad. I mean, she's got a great voice to pull a ballad off anyway. So I think, Sherman got on the piano, just started playing away. We did our usual technique, melodies flying around. She came up with some really good stuff, heartfelt stuff, and it was the whole thing. This was more intense because it was a ballad. It was like the mood was there. It was sucking us in. It was great, and obviously the final product. We thought again. I remember thinking. Do you remember when Robbie Williams, right? So everyone forgets he actually had 2 or 3 tracks before Angels, right? So Too Far Gone happened the way it did. Wait For You was in the bag. We put it as a third single. We know we had it as a third single because we was having a synopsis coming in for the video. And,
wow.
Blah, blah, blah. So we knew it was going to be winter. It was snow on the ground. We was reading and we knew what was going to happen.
Oh, amazing.
And the big secret is which I don't think I've ever heard Lisa say it. So she calls me up in a minute and tells me off. Well, but the plan was she was going to go live on Top of the Pops and play it on piano.
Oh, wow. Did you know there's actually a clip? She did an interview about probably close to a year after this. She did like a segment for, I think it was This Morning or one of those morning shows. And she went back to her singing school, and there's a clip of her on the piano singing this song. There's like, she
Okay.
just sort of like, just freestyling. So, and you could say, I wasn't aware she could play the piano until I saw that clip.
Yeah. Well, that was the final thing that Steve Lillywhite agreed with. He said, this is going to be awesome. We're going to get her on Top of the Pops. She's going to sit there. She's going to play this song on the piano. And if that, from an Angels moment where basically Robbie was going to get dropped unless Angels come along. I'm not saying it would have been as big as Angels because, of course, it's a different story. But we really felt that if she could show a broader talent that she has, it would win over that extra audience that we needed to get that album released. So that was the plan. So it was all set. Everything was all set. So again, recording session was good. It was longer. It was vibey, and I think actual Pete, correct me again, but the original track was long, wasn't it? It was about 5 minutes. It was long, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was long. We had to edit it down, didn't we? Quite a lot. I mean, we were happy with the length, but then they weren't, so we had to keep editing it down.
Yeah, we weren't going for like Bohemian Rhapsody or something. yeah, but no. So yeah, but it felt really artistic. So the whole plan.
You floored me with that. That would have been amazing.
Well, we thought that was it, and then of course this was just with the Christmas video. It was the albums. It was all in place. So we thought, right, this is it. And then of course the bombshell. But anyway,
before we get to the bombshell, I'm going to be exploring the bombshell in intricate details if we can. On the version of "I'll Wait for You" that was on the Unleashed album sampler, which we also probably need to talk about quickly. The chorus has a very different vocal structure. She's kind of an octave higher from memory in the initial demo versus the final release. Again, do you know why there were two different versions? Do you want to share? She wants to share it.
Yeah, that's going to have to be a share because I know we did do lots of versions, Pete, didn't we? But go on, mate.
Yeah, I think it was just that the chorus was edited to happen earlier. The octave came in earlier because the whole point about it was it built up, and the octave at the end was the kind of, if you like, going back to the Angels theme. It was the killer at the outro, and I think they wanted it brought forward, which kind of, for me personally, didn't work as well because it was the whole build.
Yeah.
It's always like, a boy's own, get off the stools, when it's a key change type thing, it's that bit that hits, But I think that might be the situation that the edit was changed to bring that forward. I might be correct, I might not.
And then on Never or Now, it kind of reversed back to the way it should have been, which I think is a version that most fans prefer. You also, I believe, produced You Sure Do. Where did the idea come from to do this cover? And do you know whether or not it was actually being planned as a double A side or whether it was always just going to be I'll Wait for You solo release?
Well, Pete claimed the titles with his bus ticket. I definitely remember coming in one day and saying, Lisa, we've got to do a cover. We have to do a cover, right? And we're all listening to a few things. I said, look, there's this track. Do you remember it? You sure do. I said, right. But I love the chorus. It's one of those things you're up on your feet, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
I loved it. But I don't think sonically it was very good. Sorry, Strike. Great song, blah, blah. I thought if we could do a version that could just bring the melody out, bring the bass out, bring the drums out, blah, blah, blah. If you actually listen to the original, from what I remember, it was quite a tinny, EQ-y type version, the original. And I just thought we could better it because there's not many of these classic songs, especially some of the night stuff. You can't better them. But it was just one of them tracks that I thought we could better, and it was one of them tracks also that again I might be wrong here, but they One Hit Wonders maybe.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you any other song that Strike did.
Well, One Hit Wonders are brilliant for people's careers because you make them your own, and all of a sudden you forget about the original. It's then your song, and in a certain roundabout way. Especially when we've seen the last summer, it has become a song in a way, but it just wasn't obviously the hit it should have been. But so the concept behind it completely worked. I think we made sonically a better version. She sang it brilliant. The crowd love it, you know. And again, if you if I play it to my daughters, they're not going to know Strike, but they're going to know Lisa Scott Lee. That's it.
Do you either of you remember it being talked about being a single with I'll Wait For You? Because there was always conversations online that it was a double A side, like they were going to be released together. Do you have any memories of that?
I suppose I'd be lying if I said I've got a specific memory of saying it's going to be a double A side. But they certainly were looking at it as being a cover release. And it might have even been Lisa that said, look, why not put it on as a well, I don't know if
it might have been like,
yeah,
it always seemed like a heartbeat tragedy kind of moment in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, it worked. I can't remember we was like had that feeling of things going wrong at the time. So we're just trying to get something. Look, okay, push it over the line with You Sure Do, and I'll Wait For You. If it was falling away from us, I can't particularly remember whether we did that. I mean, you got to bear in mind a lot of these decisions. She was swapping managers a couple of times at that point, but they were coming in with their own ideas, and we can only push as much as we can as producers and friends. And of course, as we know, Steve weren't there at that point. So, yeah, I think Chris Powles was the A&R. Pete?
I know the name. I can't remember who was actually the A&R after that, to be honest.
Yeah, Chris Powles, I think, was A&R at the time, and he was really banging to the idea of You Shall Do, But yeah, but whether it was specific AA, but I can't remember. Long time ago.
The other songs, Pete, you mentioned a couple of the other tracks, like All I Need, Music Is My Lover, and What a Rush. And those particular songs, they were never officially released, but like the happens these days, they are out there and have been for a long time. Like, how do you, I guess, even as writers and producers, how do you feel when tracks like that are leaked and available online without being officially released? Like, are you, in one way, you kind of, it's good that the fans can hear them, but is it kind of sometimes frustrating that songs that, maybe weren't finished have sort of made their way online?
I don't mind personally, because I mean, it was part of the collective of songs that we wrote at the time, and well, I suppose from a purely selfish point of view, we're just hoping if, we didn't do it, but if they went out there, that, if Lisa wasn't going to do it, someone else would cover it, because us, if for us as writers and, for the publishing company and stuff like that, that's our bread and butter is to get people to do the songs. So personally, if it's not finished, if it still sounds okay, not rubbish, then, it doesn't matter, because, we can allow that and we can go back and reproduce it for someone. But, so that's my view on it anyway.
Yeah. Do you remember if any of those songs were, when we kind of talk about the original plan of Unleashed coming out, do you remember if any of those songs were going to be on that album?
Well, as far as we were concerned, they all were.
Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah.
I think What a Rush was going to be on the album.
That's a fucking great song, by the way. That's a good
one.
We've always loved that track.
I would have seen that as a next single
Yeah.
after Wait For You.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, that was
there's a Kylie track later on, isn't there? Sorry, Bronze. There's a Kylie track later on. I think I'm not sure if that sounds a bit like that one, but there you go.
There's quite a few Kylie tracks. But but yeah, definitely What a Rush.
Yeah, amazing song. And then the other one, There Are Worse Things I Can Do, that you did specifically for Grease Mania. Like, do you have any memories of doing that one, or was it just for that project and you guys just did it?
That happened really quick. It was a TV show. I'm sure you guys are aware. What it happened, like, we had to do it in 5 days or something. It was really
we just got a call saying, "Can you do this? There's a TV show, blah blah blah. Can you do it? Lisa can make it this day to record the vocal." We went, "Okay."
Yeah, it was a bit of a panic, definitely, considering the show going out on the Saturday and 5 days previous we hadn't even put anything down. So yeah, it was fast. I think again, it's a long time ago, but I think Lisa was like a late entry into that setup. So that's why. But I might be wrong, but I think that's why it was like, oh, quick, she's in, quick, let's get something, I don't. Do you know what? I don't think I've ever heard that track again.
I'll send you a link of all these things I'm sending you, Bronze, after this call.
I've got some of them. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't. Pete, I'm sure you haven't played that track many times yourself.
No.
There's worse things you can do, mate. There's worse things you can do.
Pete, I just want to quickly ask, just quickly, because I know you have a list of the songs she did, and it kind of cut out after you said there are worse things I could do. What other? Can you just
from there? Too Far Gone. What a Rush. Why can't I? You sure do. Sorry. Let Me Inside.
Yeah.
So the two. Okay, so I guess for listeners, the two songs that Point Four did that they've never even heard a snippet of Why Can't I and Come On Lady, I think is what you said as well. So when Come On Lady, I don't think that's never been on any forums or whatever. So yeah, that's an exciting update for the fans to kind of wonder about for the next 20 years.
Yeah, 21st of the 5th 02 we mixed it. I've got the mix.
Wow.
Amazing. Oh, interesting. Okay, so
I'm listing the mixes. That's what I've got here. These are the audio files.
Okay, so what's the date for lately then? I need to know. Lately,
I've got a mix. It might not be. Oh, actually, I would have to look at the date. I've got a 21st of September 04, so that's a later iteration or a later copy of it. So
okay, never mind. So we've kind of hinted at it. Let's talk us through let's start with what was the original, as far as you guys were aware, the original rollout plan in as much details as you were aware for Unleashed, and then when and what changes started to happen, and what happened from your perspective? What happened? Thank you, Scott. Yeah, what happened?
What happened?
Bronze.
Right. Okay.
This is your moment.
Well, as we all know, Steve Lillywhite left, right? So we was all absolutely gutted. So we was all waiting to see who's going to come in. Lo and behold, Mr. Magic Guy from Ministry of Sound, who he had, I think Pete, didn't he have that reputation? He signed that band for £5 million or something. They only had one single, nearly bankrupt the Ministry. Or something. But anyway,
I'd just like to add, the thing is that when any A&R come into a new company, or any boss that comes into a new company, they come in and they sweep. Basically, they choose what they like, and they basically go, right, that's not for me. I'm going to bring my, I'm going to bring my touch and my artists and the things that my sound, if you like. I've been brought in. I've been paid to come here, so they obviously want what I want to do, and that's what he did. And I don't think Lisa Scott Lee was high on his list. Essentially,
he took everything that was pop and just threw it out the window. Yeah, including Darius, as we know. I mean, in all fairness to Matt, he did sign very good band, Razorlight. So he had that in the bag, and they were doing it. They were just doing it. So he could see that I've got this band. They're doing it across the board. They're doing it all over Europe. They're blah blah blah. These guys, in all fairness, I think he was pretty disparaging about the pop side of things. He just basically wasn't into it. Which we got that a lot at the time, because there was so much dance music around, and you had your real dance heads, the cool, and it always made me laugh. And Pete, you'd back me up on this. We'd have these really credible DJs or producers and blah blah, but they weren't breaking through into the mainstream. So we'd get these backing tracks through. We'd put a poppy melody over the top, which is obviously going to turn it into a commercial hit. And they'd come back to us, could you turn the vocal down a bit? Could you turn don't drown out the bass drum and and it's like, come on guys, look, if we're going to sprinkle the magic dust on top, So there was always that battle going on between the credible and, should we say, the pop, which was seen as not credible. Even though, as we know, guys, pop lasts for decades.
Yep.
And it will always go on. When the credible stuff is fly by night, I wouldn't even know that band that he signed for $5 million and disappeared. So yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame. I wish at the time we could have even sat down at him and told him our plan and at least got to the point where, well, look, come on, guys, how much is it going to be just to put this album out at Christmas? You're going to pick up at least 100,000 sales at Christmas. That's going to cover all your costs. Let's just have a go. But no, they wouldn't. I think we had a couple of tries to try and convince them, but no.
Yeah, because there was an album sampler was released to media, so there's 6 tracks, so with artwork, and so everything looked like it was in place. It looked like the album was done, the album artwork was done. You know, there was samplers sent out to media, so it, in our eyes, it was like everything's kind of ready to go, and then it was
Yeah,
faltered very
completely.
quickly.
And that was completely it. Yeah, it was completely right. And as I say, that she was there, bless her, she was there. She was, intense course practicing her piano for her shows, and it was there. And again, I can't remember. I mean, you'll correct me again. You guys know better, but about the date with that was meant to be the release, but it was around that Christmas time. That was gonna hit at Christmas, and that was the plan. We said, well, why not release this? This is crazy, but no, it just wasn't meant to be.
Or even, I know that some people have said online, even if they just moved it to January, which is a softer release period for artists generally,
Yeah.
if they were concerned, like that's easier to get a top 10 or whatever. It's still winter. And if do you know, I guess, how far along the process I'll Wait For You was in terms of, it sounds like there was directors being briefed about the video, whether, I guess, was there a video filmed?
Not that I know.
No, I don't think that it was filmed, but there's certainly, as I say, there was synopsis, there was storybooks, it was there. I think I remember Lisa talking about it. We was having a chat about what it's going to be like, and so it was certainly gone down to a certain stage, just not the final. Maybe that was the point. I mean, as you know, the videos are very expensive, so maybe that was the factor. Maybe saying we can't throw another 70 grand at this. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, that's not our business. But I know in hindsight, they certainly recouped all the money with Lisa, just with the sales. The sales recouped the money. The sales because well, again, I can't go too much into the financial side of things, but advances that were given were paid back.
And that's the lesson from the Steps days. I know that H in particular has been very forefront where they always recouped for Steps regardless. So that's so it's interesting that, I guess, you hear sometimes an artist being, let go of their label, and you assume it's because part of it being the financial reason that they weren't making their money. But it's interesting that you guys now can confirm, no, Lisa recouped. But
I think part of that is because we were an up and coming, if you like, and we weren't charging, 40,000-50,000 pounds to produce a track, which is what you would be charged at the time for a decent producer. I don't know what it would have cost, for Lisa to go round and record with all the other people. It would have cost a lot of money. I know that.
What was do you know what the synopsis was for the I'll Wait For You video?
I just know there was reindeers and snow.
Amazing. Amazing.
Love it.
Amazing.
And just again, me being I have to Scott, it's my one chance. Do you know when did this new person come along to kind of pull the pin? Was it after Too Far Gone? Was it just around that time? I'm just trying to work out the timeline of, I guess, like, was it before Too Far Gone? Was it after Too Far Gone? That kind of thing. Just my own head. We might not.
No, it was close. It was close. It was close because, as I say, I think it wasn't directly after Too Far Gone, and Steve left. So there was obviously still considering it. And as I say, everything was in motion. So it was getting closer to a release and closer to an answer. And I could just envisage, and I can't say for true because I'm just imagining, but it must have just been put before him and said, right, Darius, no, Lisa, well, we needed that. I think it was literally a toss of a coin. Shall we do this? Shall we not? And they have a meeting and go, I'll tell you what, let's bury it now. And it's unfortunately, that is it.
Yeah.
And we got a call. We got a call to say it's being pulled. So and she was absolutely gutted. We were gutted.
And I guess like the other question I want to ask about this, but you've definitely probably both already answered it, is that I can imagine it's just frustrating more than anything when a project that you've all worked so hard on and put a lot of time and effort and love into is just pulled. And
especially when it's working.
Yeah.
Especially when it's working. As Pete said earlier on, just fractional, like, it goes down to the top 20 rather than the top 10. And, there was just fractions there that would tip the balance between what can be a build of a successful career. I mean, obviously, she was going to be successful continuously anyway, because she's got steps there in the background. But to break away, an artist to break away from such a successful band and to do what she was doing and what we thought she was going to do, it's just a shame. Just a shame.
And for me, just from a personal point of view, it was a fantastic time because people listened to us. We were making good records, and no one was telling us what to do. We were just doing, between us all, Lisa, we were just basically like, we're just making these records, and they're coming out as hits. So let's just carry on. And then for it to just drop, we just go, oh, okay, and that's the hardest bit, because it was fun and it was really good. Kind of, and for her and for us, it was kind of proving that we can do this. But not quite there. Not quite there.
Now, I'm 90% sure this, well, you just kind of said the song wasn't one of yours, but I know that there was a lot of articles around after Tupac Gone, early 2004, were saying that Lisa was going to do a cover of a Kylie Minogue written song called Loved Up. Does that ring any bells to you? Do you know? No,
not for me. I don't know about that.
Okay.
No, again, not for me. But I know that there was the Curtis Mantronic's situation with the manager. He was he was starting to work on Kylie's future album. So there might have been a connection there, that there was some demos going around, that possibly that's the only connection I can think of.
Because we actually wrote some top lines for that, didn't we?
We did 3.
And so when an artist does leave their record label, who gets the rights to the unreleased songs? We know at one point there was another group that was going to do Music Is My Lover called Beyond. But did you, as Point 4, have the rights to pass on other songs to artists you were working with, or did they belong to Mercury?
The way it works is the record company pay for the recording, so they own the rights. We own the publishing as writers, but they own the recording. So you can go along, you can re-record everything, which is fine. But no, they actually own, essentially, because Lisa is signed to that label, they own that vocal, and depending on her deal at the time, she wouldn't have been able to go and re-record it either, because she'd have been in a time period of probably at least 5 years. You've got to be out that, like Taylor Swift, you've got to be out of it. Sorry,
mate. But going back to Music Is My Lover, we wasn't paid for it, so therefore, yeah, we had more rights to it.
See, because I'm guessing then that there are songs, as much as I guess Lisa couldn't have it, you could say, okay, well, we have this backing track and these lyrics, and you could get, a new artist to do them. I guess that would be the workaround.
Absolutely, yeah. We would have to re-record it though, which we did. So
I'm curious, after obviously everything happened with the album falling through, and then Lisa ended up doing the MTV show. I'm curious, did you guys ever work with her again during that period? I was watching an episode of it the other day, and I'm so sure that I saw Daniel in a scene doing some songwriting with her. And I was just curious, did you ever do any writing with her around this period?
I'm not sure. I think when it was being recorded, we might have been doing stuff at the same time, but I can't quite remember. It's a bit of a blur, unfortunately.
Right. So Lisa come and visited us about, funny enough, when we was recording with Beyond. So she came out. Now I can't say the specific date, but this was probably about 6 months to a year after it fell through.
Yeah. So that timeline would have been around then. Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually moved back to the studio at Chelsea, but into the bigger studio as opposed to where we were before. And we had signed a track to just a compilation, funny enough, as our own artists, as ourselves. I can't remember what we were called, probably something we just made up. But the track was called I Do You. So Lisa come in to see us and said, right, I'm looking at doing some more music. What have you got? So we sat there and we played some tracks. We played some Beyond tracks. One particular track, Show Me Off, she loved. And then she really loved I'll Do You. And we were going to record I Do You with her. But the deal that she had, I don't think was tied up at the time. So it's possible that she might have possibly been doing some writing with Daniel. Maybe, they were quite good friends at the time. So we were going to go and re-record with her, which we were quite excited about. I wish she would have done I Do You, because it was a real cutting edge. It was a cutting edge track, and I think it would have done her the world of good. And she knew, she heard it as well. She said, "I want that track. I'll do that." But it unfortunately didn't come around.
Yeah. And Bronze, you mentioned it before, and it's just something I've always been curious about. There's a track that you guys did with Gina G called Tonight's the Night. And anytime I hear that song, it just reminds me of the stuff you did with Lisa. So I was always curious if it was ever written with her in mind, or is it just because, Gina's also a female pop singer and it just sounds similar?
Yeah, no, yeah. So basically, no, it was done exactly as you say. I mean, basically, we used that sound essentially because we saw her in a similar vein. So basically, we thought, okay, obviously she was famous for the Eurovision, but we just wanted to put our sound on it and wrote that track with her in mind, essentially. So yeah, that's a, it's
And as I
actually quite.
mentioned,
Sorry,
originally it
Brian.
was for Sarah. Originally it was for Sarah, wasn't it? Sarah Watmore.
It was Sarah Watmore originally, yeah. But I mean, if you actually listen to, I can't remember which track on the album on Lisa's album actually uses pretty much the same drums as we've used, so they've obviously listened to us.
Yeah,
So I can't remember which track it is.
yeah. The album, Unleashed, obviously that never came out, Never or Now. It eventually came out in a different form to how it was going to be released back in the day. Kind of had a really weird release. It was released in some territories in the late 2000s, and then it was only digital in the UK. It finally got its moment that it deserved last year. It got the physical release on vinyl, cassette, and CD, and Lisa got to tour, a lot of Pride shows and stuff. So for the both of you, was that just nice to see that finally this album was sort of having its moment that it fucking should have had 20 years ago, really, like, just to have that moment finally to kind of come full circle? Was that really nice to see for both of you?
Yes, I'm going to say
Completely.
yes. Basically, is the answer for me. But I have to say it's slightly even bittersweet because I wish we could have released, the album as we had it in the first
Yeah.
place with all of those tracks. That would have really been, and I don't see why, we couldn't have gone back. I mean, maybe it was to do with copyrights and stuff like that, but we could have used some of those earlier tracks, and it could have been a bigger album, unless they were going to be
Yeah,
saved for another album. I don't really know, but it would have been lovely to see all of those tracks because for us it was almost a complete works.
yeah, yeah,
It would have been really good to
yeah,
have that
completely.
track and then a few others, but that's probably just me being
Yeah.
selfish.
No, no, you're right, because like I said, it's because of the tracks recorded over like the final album that come out whatever last October. There's so many different artists that she's recorded with over a longer period of time, so it's, I think, slightly disjointed rather than the body of work that Pete just said. So yeah, but it was great, and I spoke to her a couple of times, and she was over the moon, especially with her shows. I mean, again, it's. I mean, sales are a hell of a lot different now to what they were, and things are now the way they are. But I'm sure it's still ticking around there somewhere. Just out there in different territories. I'm sure we'll find out.
Do you fellas think so? Steve left either just around or just after the release of Too Far Gone, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Do you think, because a big part of Lisa's narrative is that she left Mercury purely because the song didn't go top 10, do you actually, the narrative that I'm starting to form is more so that because Steve left and the new person in charge didn't necessarily support pop and didn't think it was worth another spin of the dice, even though it was fairly profitable? Do you think maybe that was more so the reason why that fell down?
Well, I think if an artist doesn't feel supported in the way that they were being supported before, then whether they were, if you like, whether they left or was pushed, it doesn't really actually make a lot of difference. It's that support, particularly artists. They need to know that everyone's behind them, because you've got to go out there and perform, etc., etc. So I think it doesn't. I'm not sure which narrative is actually right, but it all comes to the same kind of end product for me personally.
If you guys had the opportunity to, would you ever pitch anything to Steps?
We did.
Oh, you did?
We did. Pete might not even know we did, but we did.
No, I don't know. We did.
Yeah. I was chugging away on their comeback album. I was in quite good talks with their manager at the time.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they've got the same manager. I don't know.
Was it Steve or was it Adam?
Adam.
Okay, Adam. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was really interested, listening to some stuff. we had a track. I'll tell you what it was called. It was called Dirty Love.
Okay.
It's also called. It's got two titles because some of the people don't like the title Dirty Love. So it was called I Want a Lover, and it was a track that they was quite into, and yeah, it didn't come. Obviously, it didn't come about. Because I think they were gathering up 20, 30, 40, 50 tracks, and they were going to sit down and whatever their process is and have a listen and blah blah blah. So no, so yeah, we were pitching tracks to Steps and quite positively so at the time. I was thinking, oh, we've got a good chance here, you know. But again, I don't know what the dynamic is amongst them guys. Everyone's going to have their favourite guys that they will go to. And bearing in mind, Lisa didn't actually come to us to say, "Have you got any tracks for Steps?" I just went to the management. So I didn't want to step on any toes, but I didn't. I just said, "Look, this is what we've got." And when they came back and said, "We really like this, we're going to pitch it to them." So there you go.
And we've seen last year off the back of like the album being released and doing the shows that she's back in Dubai anyway. We know she's kind of been doing a bit of recording. Would you guys, if the opportunity ever came up, would you like get back in the studio with her and do some stuff if that was an option?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be there tomorrow.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah,
No,
and
definitely.
we go back to the Steps thing. I mean, you know, I think my friends from PWL, Jules and Stone, did quite a lot of
Yes,
their
the
stuff.
Alias. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're great there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would work with them. We would work with we would work with Lisa again tomorrow. She was brilliant. We had I just want to go back to that time. It was really great. It was fun. It was really proactive, and you know, you got out of it.
Yeah. And you ate mushroom rice for the first time.
I did. And she took us after the first, I think it was after Lately, we went to Benihana's, which is a very nice Japanese restaurant, and we actually had she hired the kind of booth thing, and we celebrated. It was good. Yeah. Do that again, I'll be quite happy with that.
Yeah.
What is the process? I mean, I'm just gonna, cheerlead here for a little bit. What is the process like? Could you call her, or is the process now that she has to come to you?
No, I still in quite good communication with her. She invited us. Unfortunately, my girls play football, and it clashed with one of the concerts she was doing. But she invited us over. So yeah, and I mean, when I try, I do like say to her every now and then, look, let's do some more tracks, blah blah. And she never ever says yes or doesn't say no. But that's Lisa. She's also a business lady.
She's very busy now. Yeah,
she runs a school. Yeah,
exactly. And she knows. And she knows because we're friends. She's not going to say to me, "Oh, come on, let's record a track," because I might hold her to that. But I'm sure if the time's right for her, and she might turn around and I'll tell you what, let's have another go. Then that'll be fabulous. That would be fabulous.
Lisa, come on, we want a version of "I Want a Lover" for your next set of summer gigs. Let's do it.
I'll tell you what, that's a smash.
What did you guys think of Electric? Actually, I'm quite curious.
Well, we were really interested in that because obviously Guy Chambers was massive at the time. Well, it was quite interesting that Electric came out with it was Lately, wasn't it, on the B side?
Yes,
or double A even, I'm not sure. It was something like that, which was like, it was a bit odd, to be honest. It's almost they weren't confident on Electric.
It was very odd. I remember there was so much talk on the forums about it being Electric and Lately, and then the fact that the actual Electric single had it actually had on the main single features the top 10 single Lately on it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah.
And that for us was really interesting because it was just like, well, we've got so many other songs that could have been there. Why did you go for that? And unfortunately, Guy Chambers done some fantastic stuff. And I don't mind the record, but there was other stuff. And I think part of it's a business, and part of it is if you've got a well-known name, then they're probably going to go with that person, rather than necessarily listening to the fans or even listen to, how can I say this? Even listen to the music. It was kind of. I thought it was weaker essentially than some of the other tracks that we had lined up for it, but that's just my personal opinion.
I think with our setup, the reason why our setup was so good is because we were quite harsh with each other, but not in a nasty way. If someone come up with a bad melody or a bad lyric, they would just take the piss out of you. I would say, shut up that shit. And after a while, when Lisa got used to it, she was the same. She goes, oh, bro, that's terrible. Go away. It was that type of thing. So there was so many things going around. But when you're doing a one-on-one, so if there's two of you writing a record together, it's a lot harder to turn around to one person and go, don't like that, because writing sessions cannot work when you start clashing in that respect. So I think going back to that, the body of work we had, it worked because the system worked. But maybe going back to some of the tracks that she obviously feels personal that she's written with other artists, but there's not that, just for experience, it's harder to write with one person who's a stranger, maybe. I don't know.
Before we leave, what other songs have you done that you think our listeners or fans of Lisa would love to hear?
Go on, Bronze, you can list them.
I think I mentioned them, haven't I? Well, I want to love. Definitely. Go and listen this out somewhere.
No, because what I've done whilst you guys have been chatting is so the songs that you've mentioned, I'll Do You, Dirty Love, / I Wanna Love Her, Show Me Off. I believe they're actually all been released by other artists. So I might shout them all out now. So I'll Do You was recorded by Ina, who's a Romanian pop singer. And then there's a band called Lavu Buzela, who did Dirty Love, that was meant to be a single from their album released in 2012. And then finally, Jessica Clemens did a video even for the song Show Me Off, which is another song that you mentioned was pitched to Lisa that Lisa liked.
There's an artist that we did our whole album with. It was actually a complete project. And again, it was a shame it just didn't lift. It was not as, it's not in the same vein as Lift, but there is a couple of tracks on there, but it's a whole album by Sherelle. There's a track called Want You to Want Me. But again, it's not in the same genre, but there is a couple of tracks on there that Lisa could easily do. And I'm sure some of the fans of the music would quite like, but that's a whole album that's out there,
Yeah, but it's called A Different Life. It was released in August 2015.
God, you're good, aren't you?
Oh, he's I don't know. He stores it somewhere up there.
He's like the FBI agent.
Literally. Well, look, guys, that's sort of all we had to ask you. I guess we just again want to say like a massive thank you. This has been such an interesting conversation, and again, we're so happy that you guys both took the time to talk to us about this because it's something that we're both so passionate about, and we love the body of work that you created with Lisa, and it's it's just been such a great conversation. So thank you so much to both of you.
Brilliant. Thank you. I mean, thanks for having us. I just want to give a shout out to Phil Dyson and obviously, Daniel Sherman, because we did it as a collective, and I'm not sure if you're chatting to them as well, but it was a body of work that we all did together. So
just on a personal note, these songs, like, I don't know if you've listened to our lately episode from last year, but these songs were the soundtrack to a really difficult time in my life. Like I was, being bullied a lot for potentially being gay. I was, I ended up moving schools. Lisa's music at the time really got me through that time. And it was her songs with you really that really, really helped me in a really difficult moment. So even like I'll Wait For You, even though I necessarily didn't have the whole song at the time, like those snippets were just like, it was so hopeful. And just seeing her, she'd come through a bad time and was kind of standing on her own 2 feet and was really, strong in her image and, doing the music that you could tell, like she had so much, excitement whenever she was on TV or whenever she was doing a video. You could kind of see like the life in her eyes. And obviously she still has that, but I guess seeing that and seeing someone come through a bit of darkness and, overcome it was something I really need to see at that time. And it was really kind of your music that helped empower her. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, that was lovely, Brett. Thank you for that. I mean, it's great, obviously, that, in the bubble that we're making records, and, we don't, it's lovely to see that it goes out and it affects other people, but obviously that's fantastic. Yeah.
The power of music. Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, guys. Honestly, appreciate it.
Well, I am still on such a high after doing that interview. It's been 2 days since we recorded that, and I have had Never or Now on like a loop on my phone for the last couple of days. I think my favorite story that they told us was that it was literally the Steve Lillywhite guy, that he left Mercury to go work on the U2 album that won Album of the Year at the Grammys. Like, I mean, just saying that could have been unleashed. Just saying. Shane, what did you think? Because you obviously, you were involved in recording, but what did you think we did a good job? Did we ask all the questions that you wanted?
Oh my God, absolutely. As a listener and this is why I love when we take turns in doing interviews, because then I get to sort of sit back and listen to our podcast from a listener's point of view, as opposed to being part of the creative process. And it was so great. It was, I can liken it to when Scott and I did Steve Anderson, because it turned into this amazing conversation between the four of you, and you all wanted to talk about it to the point where sometimes you were talking over each other, and that's not a bad thing. That's just because you're all like, let's talk about. It's like when the three of us caught up to talk about this podcast. Remember, we were like, la, 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 la. It was like that. I was going to actually say the same as you, Brad. The story about the U2, him leaving and then going on to do U2's album, and then that becoming album of the year. I was like, okay, that's pretty amazing. For me to listen to this stuff, and there's stuff that I like, because Brad, you're the FBI of pop knowledge, right? So especially when it comes to Lisa Scott Lee, so there's stuff that I learned on this, even as a Steps fan, and I know a lot. But so it was really great. You boys were sensational, as if you wouldn't be.
I will just quickly say we did actually reach out to ask them after the podcast about Lately and Too Far Gone. They confirmed that they're not necessarily demos. It's more so filtered versions or like alternative edits that might have slipped out, but there was never really like concrete demos that were fished out and then changed and edited for pop radio or the like.
Can we just take a moment to talk about the whole I'll Wait For You campaign that was cancelled? Like the music video with reindeer and snow and the planned piano like performance of it on Top of the Pops. She was rehearsing for it. Like, can you imagine all of that happening? It would have just been incredible. When they told us that, my jaw hit the floor.
That's Lisa Scott Lee inventing Hun culture right there.
And I hope that for the listeners, we've been able to help tell the story that has never been told and that we've always wanted the answers to. I think for me, that's what is so special about this interview. I've just been on a high from it because I know that we're going to be giving people answers to all those questions we've always wanted to know. And yeah, I hope we've done that.
Well, I'm going to plug some stuff now. So, Here and Now is playing from the 9th to the 30th of November at the Alexandra Theatre in Birmingham. And so for more information, go to thestepsmusical.com. Claire, Faye and Lee all have shows and or pantos coming up, and you can get more information of these by going to their respective Instagram pages. The Steps official newsletter is back, and you can sign up for direct updates from the band by going to their official website, stepsofficial.co.uk. If you like us, you can rate or subscribe or give us a like as well, wherever you get your podcast fix from. And you can follow us at Glitter Steps Pod on Instagram, X, and TikTok. And you can follow me personally at Stepmeister on Instagram or StepmeisterOZ on X. Scott, where can they follow you?
They can follow me at StepsCollection_ on Instagram. Brad.
They can follow me at Brad Schmerling on Instagram.
Until next time, stay unleashed.
Bye.
Bye.
Things that you wanna hear.